What's up, guys? It is on the fly. We are back again tonight. And, last week we had a Georgia boy with Mr. Michael Lee. Tonight, we got another Georgia boy. And Mr. Flint warned us about these Georgia boys last week. He's a Tennessee guy. He warned us about these Georgia boys. But tonight, we got country Christian artist, Mr. Wade Quick. We're going to talk to him about all things music. And we're going to talk about some of his songs, including Find Me, which is the newest single going to country radio now, just released to country radio in this past week. And we're going to talk about some other interesting songs that he's done in the past that I was listening to, and I think you guys will love. So welcome to the show, Mr. Quick. How you doing tonight?
Steven. Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. We love having all the Brickshore Media people over here. Nicole does a great job.
Yes, she does.
These people. She's a sweet lady, and she has really helped me out a lot. I appreciate it, getting these fine folks over here to me.
Yes, sir.
So, Georgia boy.
Yes, sir.
Growing up, Stone Mountain, Georgia. Now, when I hear Stone Mountain, Georgia, I'm an old wrestling fan. And
right.
Stone Mountain, isn't that Jake the Snake?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was when I hear Stone Mountain, that's the first thing I thought of.
We need Michael here. He seems to
Michael
be
would tell us
for that. But I love wrestling. I didn't follow it as close as some, but man, I love it. And if you can catch those biographies on those wrestlers, they are amazing shows. I kind of knew all the wrestlers, but watching those biographies, those dudes were hard workers. They worked hard, and they're something else. They lived a hard life.
And I'll tell you this, one of the shows I really miss on TV now is VH1 had Behind the Music. And they used to come out every week, and it didn't matter if I was a fan of those people or not. After an hour of it, I was like, okay, I got to go listen to this. I got to go listen to their music. I got to go listen to their music. But yeah, watching those documentaries, you find out, everybody thinks, wrestling is they got it made. No, they don't have it made. They don't have it made. They had to pay their dues to get there. And
I was surprised at all the driving they did between.
Oh,
yeah. I did not know they drove like that. I sort of figured they flew place to place, but.
And I work with a independent wrestling organization here in North Carolina, and it's a Christ-based organization called Rage Wrestling. And these guys are independent wrestlers. They drive. I mean, I'm in Eastern North Carolina, and there's guys that come from Washington D.C.
Yeah,
and it takes them 3 hours to get there, and then they wrestle. They get out of there 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then they go back home.
Man,
so I mean, it's you pay your dues, but if you can get through it, I think you can do pretty good.
Yeah,
I don't know about life after wrestling or without, because people say, oh, it's fake, but that stuff hurts. I'm sure
it does. Well, I've been looking for some extra money, so I might try to get in on that.
Look, I started working with them. I do camera work for them. I started doing. It's been 4 or 5 years ago. And they were training some people in there when I walked in one day, and one of the wrestlers looked at me and said, all right, you want to get in here? Come on, let's go. I was like, dude, if it was 10 years ago, maybe. Now, if I had to do some of that stuff, it would kill me. I wouldn't be able to walk.
I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for sure. For sure.
So growing up in Georgia, what was Wade Quick listening to as a kid? What's some of your first music memories?
Oddly enough, it was a lot of hard rock stuff. I listened to, my favorite, I had a country record mixed in there. It was Waylon Jennings' record with him with the cigarette hanging on the front with Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. Right. Amanda. So that was mixed in with AC/DC, Back in Black, and Foreigner, and Sammy Hagar, a lot of Van Halen.
Right.
And so I really gravitate mainly because I like the electric guitar and the sounds of Eddie Van Halen.
That guy was a legend. He'd do things with a guitar. I don't know how he did with them.
Yeah, he was one of a kind. So I don't know that I always appreciated the lyric. I did appreciate the vocalist of the hair bands, David Coverdale's and some of those guys. And I actually liked Axl Rose's voice pretty good bit. But so it's really strange. I love that, and I think was it you that was saying when Garth came along is when you changed?
That's loud. When you said Waylon, now I would listen as a kid. I was a diehard Kiss fan since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And, but Waylon, I think I would listen to him just because of the Dukes of Hazzard theme song. You know,
right.
You hear that, you're like, who's singing that song? Waylon Jennings. Okay, I got to listen to him. Yeah. But I was, and I hate it because I was so against it back then when I was listening to like that music you talked about all through the 80s. I was like, if you went by a country music channel, I was like, oh gosh, no. But when Garth came out, you know, and now I'm like, you know, that stereotype when you get stereotyped with the music, like if you're a country music fan, oh, you can't listen to rock, you can't listen to, you know, good music is good music. I'll listen to R&B, country, some of the older rap music, you know, back in when I was a kid. But you know, and you know, I'll listen to anything that's good.
I tell you what, an album I really liked that was also one in our collection was the Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album. Man, I came back across that music not long ago, probably like a year or two ago. And I forgot how big those songs were. And I didn't know much about Lindsey Buckingham, the guitar player.
Oh, gosh.
And dude, he's a monster. Sometimes when I used to watch them, it was more of I just took it in for the art of it and the sounds. And I really didn't pay attention to what everybody was doing. And I realized what a great guitarist he was. And vocalist too. But that was just, I love that record a lot. So all that, all the Van Halen records and Back in Black, I wore that. I flat out wore that. I think I broke a set of my parents' speakers, the nice ones that were in our den. I'm pretty sure I blew those up on Back in Black.
I'm sure you weren't the only one to do that, but yeah, believe it or not, you're talking about Fleetwood Mac. My daughter is big into Fleetwood Mac. She's 19. She's big into Fleetwood Mac. And that Rumors album, she loves it. I bought that on vinyl for Christmas.
Great record.
Before last, but she loves. And one of the songs it's not on Rumors, but one that we watched the video of, and you talking about Buckingham playing, and I love his playing on it too, but that's not the real reason. Silver Springs, when they did the reunion concert, and him and Stevie Nicks is giving him the stare down when she's singing. But when he plays that guitar solo on that, man, it is. She played we were in the car the other day on the way somewhere to get something to eat. She played the studio version of it. I was like, don't play the studio version, play the live version of it.
Right.
It was so much better.
Oh, yeah. They do amazing jobs on some of that stuff.
Gosh, you're right. Lindsey Buckingham. And I'm the same way as you. I didn't realize how great a guitar player he was till the older I got. And it's just like with, you know, like I said back then, I wouldn't listen to country music, but back then I wouldn't listen to the Eagles either.
Right.
And when they did Hell Freezes Over, and I saw them playing those two guitars, Don Felder and Joe Walsh trading back and forth. I was like, holy moly. I said, I've got to get into these guys. And I've been a big Eagles fan ever since.
Oh yeah, I didn't know forever that Joe Walsh was the guy singing the first part of My Maserati Does 185.
Yeah,
that voice, I knew the song, but I didn't know it was Joe Walsh until forever. And then when I found out, I was like, how could I not know that? But
yeah,
I don't know. I seem to miss a lot early on in terms of even lyrically. Like I go back and listen to songs and. Exactly. And I'm like, what's this song really about? I sang it a million times, but what were they? Because I think I just got to the chorus and listened.
I mean, as a kid, and then even at teenager, you're not really getting in deep to 80s rock band lyrics. But then the older you get, when you actually go back and listen to it and listen to the lyrics, all right, what is this song about? Because when I hear a song, I love to hear a story. And you know, sitting there listening to some of them, yeah, I'm like, this ain't no story at all to these. But some of them have got a good story to it. But yeah, I think the older we get, the more we appreciate that stuff. And I know I do.
I think it was one thing that I find amazing is on the Appetite for Destruction record that Guns N' Roses did. Those songs are not by any stretch of the imagination country, but the lyric is actually sound and solid and almost like a country song where it all works together and it's not just some ethereal, just craziness. I'm surprised at how sound the lyrics are on that. Even that record's crazy. So
yeah.
Anyway.
So I think we've already went through your influences.
Yeah, it tells you why I struggle to write country music, I guess.
Now, from what I heard, you didn't struggle. You had to struggle.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So when and what made you start picking up music, like picking up a guitar? I mean, I'm sure Eddie Van Halen, you said, but what made you want to pick up a guitar and start doing music?
My granddad used to play fiddle, and then some of my cousins played guitar. The Crabtrees that lived up here in Tennessee, they were one of my cousins, Vince, played electric guitar, and I just kind of fell in love with the electric guitar. And my dad got me a guitar when I was in middle school, and just tinkering around. I should actually. I'm one of those people that feel like they should play a lot better than they do for as long as they've had a guitar in their hand. But unfortunately, I wasn't, one of those people that was gifted with, I play the drums, I play the guitar.
I can play it all.
I struggle to play the guitar a little bit. And I hold my own with strumming and singing, but, and the rest is just in my mind. I'm Greg, I could be Eddie Van Halen.
Now, you talk about that, and you talk about being an Eddie Van Halen fan. What do you think about Wolfgang? Have you listened to much of his stuff?
I don't know what the name of the song was, but I saw one of his songs he came out with, I guess not too long ago, and it was amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't think, even knowing who he is, and I expect big things from him, I just didn't. That song kind of caught me off guard. I don't know how to explain it because it's kind of out of my wheelhouse, but that song I heard actually blew me away. It wasn't really my style of music, but it was amazing. I don't know.
Now, that first album he put out, which was it wasn't long after Eddie passed away. He did a song called Distance, and the video was just old clips of him and Eddie all through the years. But if you want to hear something powerful with the way he wrote and the lyrics in that song, because he says he didn't really write it he wrote this before Eddie passed away, but to hear it, it sounds like, and I mean, it'll get to you. But that whole album, he played every instrument. He sang. He played every instrument on that album. I mean, I'm like you. He caught me off guard with how talented he is.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't have been caught off guard because of who he is. But
yeah,
he caught me off guard with that. That first album was awesome.
Yeah. It's hard to like a guy like that can play everything.
Well, everybody gave him such a hard time at first because they pushed him into Van Halen, and they were like, "Oh, he's just there. He's not that good. He's just there because he's Eddie's kid."
Right.
And which he's proved me wrong, because I was one of them that said, they took out Michael Anthony and put the kid in because it's Eddie's son, and I sorry, I'll admit when I'm wrong, but so
I think some of the country guys were like that too. Merle Haggard could play fiddle. He didn't play very much, but Merle Haggard was a great electric and a really good impersonator too. John's actually a good impersonator as well. I think a lot of good singers.
He told me about that last week. He told me he could impersonate.
Oh, he really can. I think people with really good hearing and good ears for tone and pitch are really good at impersonating. And Merle Haggard was no exception to that. He could do that. He was good.
I have utmost respect for people who play the fiddle too. That does not look like it's easy at all.
I own the fiddle, and it was I sold it.
Enough said there. That the lady, I think it's Marty from the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks, what they call it.
Yeah,
she plays. Oh wow, my daughter is a big Chicks fan. She went to see them in concert. She talked like it was the best thing ever. So playing that fiddle, more power to you.
Yes.
So when did you know that music is what you wanted to do? I mean, you wanted to try to do something with music. What point of your life did you know?
It was later in life for me, because to be honest, when I used to watch the bands on MTV and all that. I never thought about how they got there. I thought it was like some miracle, like they just put together a band and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden somebody swooped down and found them. I didn't know there's actually people trying, attempting, actively driving their life in this direction. So it didn't occur to me. I started going to a place called the Buckboard in Marietta, where Mark Wills was discovered out of there.
Oh yeah, I love Mark Wills.
And I started going there, and I realized that, you know, people made a living out of songwriting and different things. And at some point, I got back to Atlanta around 95, and I stayed there 3 years, and I went to the Buckboard a lot, and made a trip or two to Nashville. And then at some point, I just decided I wanted to try to be a writer. I fell in love with it hard. Actually, the year I did my residency in Columbus, Georgia, at the medical center, it was my first time away from home, and I was out of my mind bored in the evening. So that year, I wrote my first 3 country songs.
Wow.
And when I got back to Atlanta, I started playing acoustic shows and going to the Buckboard. And then somewhere in that mix, I decided I was going to move to Nashville and try to be a songwriter. And it seemed a little more approachable back then, because Nashville wasn't so big. When I got here, it wasn't overwhelming. I think if I showed up to Nashville now, I would be like, wow, what a place, and where do I start? But back then it was, I found a little place called the Broken Spoke, which was in kind of a rough area of town, actually, I think. And there were a lot of good writers that had not yet been discovered. Tony Lane, David Lee, Anthony Smith, a lot of great influences in terms of the songwriting community. I would go there and just listen and see. Every time you go out, you just knew, you'd hear what you're up against, and you could gauge what level you had to write at to get people's attention. So I really got a big dose of some serious songwriters early on. And Tony Lane has written so much. He's a great writer. He wrote Little Past Little Rock for Lee and Womack. Anyway, he's a brilliant writer. But anyway, I got into it then. That was in 97. I arrived in 97.
And see, as a kid too, and I was always under the assumption that all these artists that sang the songs, they wrote the songs too. That's not the case either. There's some people behind that song that don't get put to the forefront enough. Because songwriting, you answered my next question about making the jump, how hard it was for you. You talked about that. But songwriting, like I said before we came on, the utmost respect for it, because when people crank out these songs, and I don't know how they do it, coming up with ideas, and I mean, the ideas are easy. I got plenty of ideas for it right over here on my computer. Right. And then coming up with the rest of it, that's the problem. I mean, how hard and what kind of process do you go through? Because everybody's process is different, I think. What kind of process do you go through to write the songs?
I'm like all the other guys in terms of where it starts. It can be just a little bit of a melody, or a melody with some lyrics, or even just the starting line. Usually for me, back in the day, especially, it would start with me up at like 1 or 2 in the morning in almost a comatose state, just kind of banging around on the guitar and coming up with a melody that I liked, and I would record it and come back to it later. But as of late, I don't write as much as I used to, partly out of laziness, but I like to write when I'm inspired, and I haven't. I was excited and inspired on Fight Like Heaven. That was the first time I'd felt inspired to write something. So, and there's another writer on that too, Steve Rizzo, my friend in Texas that was up here in Nashville when I first got here. He gave me the idea for that actually. So he's also on that song with us. So he's a good writer too, and maybe somebody that can join you sometime on the show and talk.
Oh, yeah, I've got it. I just wrote his name down. That was some.
He's a good guy, but yeah, he's on there. So yeah, it can come any way. For me, it does become a little bit of like reinventing the wheel every time, because even though I was in some bands and stuff, the thing I failed to do early as a younger person was to really learn musically different styles, of different kinds of music. So just the basic chord progressions and what works and what doesn't work and what creates this and that feel. So there have been challenges for me musically in sitting down and not only having to write the song, but having to figure out music in the process. Something that most people already have a pile of that knowledge already in their reserve from years of playing guitar, playing this song and knowing. Sometimes for me, it becomes, I have to be steered a lot by just inspiration and creativity more so than knowledge base. So that can, anybody that's a young person learning music, I recommend that they play as many songs as they can and understand why they work. And knowing rhythm helps a lot too. That has been my Achilles heel this day and age. Is if you put me down on a set of drums, it'd be silly. So I have a poor sense of rhythm, and it's taken me years of being in Nashville to even just strum in rhythm, honestly. So I'm kind of a handicap writer. But I get lucky, and I have good co-writers on some stuff too.
We've got a guest that has chimed in, Mr. Flint.
Yeah.
Tony Lane wrote "I Need You,"
right,
and then he wrote "Better Rain."
Yes.
So
yeah, Tony can paint a picture like nobody's business. He has a really deep. If you don't know who Tony Lane is, I recommend looking him up. He has a really deep voice. He's a really good singer himself, and he just has a style about him. I actually was at a concert. Tim McGraw's drummer lived in my subdivision in Smyrna, and we became buddies because we both had Harleys. And he took me to a show up in Kentucky, that Soul to Soul tour with Tim and Faith.
Oh yeah.
I was sitting there. He got us tickets, and we were sitting there. And when they started playing the song "I Need You," he is such a stylistic songwriter that when the song started, I turned to my friend and I said, I don't know who wrote that, but I'd almost be willing to bet Tony Lane was a co-writer on that song. That's how stylistic his songwriting is. Just the way he phrases things.
Right.
So that is there's probably only a handful of songwriters that have that much of a style to their writing.
So you decide you want to do this, and we talked. I think we mentioned a little bit about it. How did, and I like to ask this about everybody because everybody got affected by it. How did COVID affect you or slow you down during all that time?
Man, COVID actually upended my world, to be honest, because my father passed in January 2020. And not to be political, I'm not going to make a political statement, but this is just a medical statement. From my own personal viewpoint of the whole thing, I felt like it was a planned event, and I felt like a lot of information about the pandemic was I felt like a lot of it was suppressed that would have been helpful. So my profession being pharmacy, I had already started kind of losing my lust for pharmacy a long time ago, but when 2020 hit and I saw what Big Pharma did, I really lost faith in my industry, and I really lost faith in the medical field. And it's really scary. I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole, and I hope I'm not offending anybody because, whether you did or didn't get the vaccine, that's everybody's personal choice, and I can respect that. But what I can't respect is an industry that would put profits ahead of people's health. And I think that was on major display during 2020. So 2020 was a kind of a devastating year. I spent a lot of years trying to figure out the world and myself, and kind of coming out of my profession and taking a step back from it, which actually was a blessing in disguise because it kind of refocused me and let me focus back on God and try to work on my spiritual life and start getting back into music. So it was a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
Right. I can understand that. So talk about the first time you recorded. What kind of experience was that for you? The first time you recorded a song?
Recording is the best. Recording is the best. Are you talking about audio recording?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If I had a pile of cash and just all the time in the world, I would just sit around and record. And I think John's the same way. It's so expensive to do.
Oh yeah.
But it's so fun. There's a lot of songs, including the Pharmacist song, that I like the ideas in it, but it needs to be re-recorded because it was done, had a lot of heart and soul in the parts, but it's sonically, it's not good. It's missing the bass and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in my catalog I need to go back and redo, like 8 to 10 songs. That's one of them. And but recording is the best, especially in Nashville, where these guys come in and they have 20 years. They're either a genius or they have 20 years of experience in their instruments, and they're the best and one time through. Have you seen a Nashville recording session before?
No. So
basically the guys show up. You can literally show up with your guitar, and you'll sit down with one person that'll chart the song. There's a number system called the Nashville number system. That's basically 1s, 3s, and 5s, and some little symbols, but mostly numbers. And you'll sit in front of the first session I did in Nashville was at County Q in Berry Hill. And the guy who sat down with me to chart my music was the drummer of all things. And I'm like, I got a drummer sitting in front of me while I'm playing guitar. He's going to listen to me play and write this chart. And he did. I just played the song one time. He has a single sheet of paper with numbers on it, which correspond to the chords in that key. And the good part about that is if you change keys, those numbers relate in the new key as well. So that chart applies to any key you do it in. They write this chart in like 2 minutes. And then once you get your charts written, they hand them out to the guys, and they literally run through the song, play it down, as they say, run through it one time. And then sometimes 2 times. They'll be like, maybe we have a better one in us. But all the parts, everything, all the guitar licks and everything comes out of these guys' head. They have to dial the tone in on their guitars and everything. Everybody just produces this masterpiece in literally minutes. And and then you go back later, and me being the vocally handicapped as I could be, I have, I might spend an hour or 2 on the vocals, and these cats have ripped out a part that's perfect in a minute. So that doesn't go for John. John and Michael probably can sing on key, on point. But anyway, it's amazing. So recording is awesome. If I had more money, I would do a lot more of it. But I tell you what, if I had a stack of money, I'd probably go do all the Garth Brooks songs and put them on iTunes, because I don't think he has his stuff on iTunes.
No, he doesn't.
So if I had a stack of money, I would go just do a Garth Brooks record just to put it on iTunes. So I could have some.
Somebody has done that, because we were it's been a while back, but we were going somewhere, and like I said, my daughter, she gets control of the radio most of the time, or on her phone. It ain't radio anymore; it's her iTunes. But she she started playing. I want to say it was Friends in Low Places, and I was sitting there, and I was just okay. And all of a sudden, I was like, that ain't Garth. And she's like, yeah, he's not on Apple.
I
So
know.
I don't think he streams anywhere.
I don't know how I went so long without knowing that. I just recently discovered it, and I love Garth's music.
Oh, yeah,
And
Garth is what got me into country music. I mean, and then it went from there where I was like, how could I have been, that foolish? Because there was, from him it was Trisha Yearwood, of course, Vince Gill.
I tell you what, Alan Jackson's Here in the Real World record, that also pulled me into country music. For some reason, that record really resonated with me, along with all the Garth stuff. But Alan's Here in the Real World, that was a great record. And when my dad was still alive, when that came out, he and I were driving one day, and I just looked at him kind of like, when Here in the Real World, and I'm like, this guy's gonna blow up. This is awesome.
It was a funny story. My dad, he worked he retired and worked a part-time job at a car repair shop. He just answered the phones and stuff like that. Well, the guy that owned the car repair, he collected Mustangs. And it was funny. Daddy came home one day, called me. He was like, "You're not gonna believe who I got a phone call from today." And I was like, "Okay, who?" And he was like, Alan Jackson.
Wow.
The guy had a Mustang that was one of like only 2 or 3 ever made.
Wow.
And Alan Jackson ended up buying the Mustang from it. So
what a good investment.
Yeah, definitely. But, like you said, that 90s country got me. I was like, okay,
Clint Black.
I can't believe Clint Black. I mean, George Strait. I mean,
George is
Pure Country came out. That turned me. I mean, and I know everybody's like, oh, he has so much good stuff before Pure Country came out, but Cross My Heart was just like, when I heard that, I was like, I mean, whoever wrote that wrote the perfect ballad right there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a sucker for a ballad.
My brother-in-law was a minor league baseball player, and he, traveling on the bus from game to game, he was a huge George Strait fan forever. And so he had a lot of his music. And so he kind of was turning me on to George Strait all throughout my youth. Yeah. And then when it kind of stuck, and my good friend Anthony Smith co-wrote Run and Cowboys Like Us for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I
can't imagine writing music, writing a song for somebody, a legend like that,
No, that's the dream of all of ours, man. It's just to have somebody like that cut it, and we feel, like we've been validated.
Freaking awesome.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about, you brought it up. Let's talk about some of the songs. Before we get to Find Me, let's talk about some of the songs that and first I want to talk about what you talked about earlier, The Pharmacist. Yeah. I was going through on Apple Music. I was going through all your songs, and I looked at it, and I was like picking out songs from here and there and listen to first. And I saw Pharmacist up there, and I'm like I told you before, I said, well, I didn't know George Strait had The Fireman. Right. I said, I'm intrigued. If you didn't do anything but get me intrigued,
right?
I'm gonna listen to this song. And it was so well done. I was like, I've got to hear the story, because I mean, and obviously there was somebody that wrote it, and I didn't know at the time you were a pharmacist, but obviously whoever wrote it had a big knowledge of the pharmacy industry. But yeah, how did that come about?
I don't know. I think I was when I wrote it, I was here, and I guess I was seeing so many. I've seen so many people writing comedy stuff, like some of the big writers, like Win Varble. They get some of their best. They get some of their best responses from funny stuff.
Yeah.
So I had, being a fan of songwriters as much as artists, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to write something funny like that. So I don't know how I chose that style of music to do it in. I was probably listening to a bunch of Brooks and Dunn at the time or something.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. The lyrics that was one of those where it was so easy to write the lyric. But some of those drugs are not hardly used anymore, like Meprigan and Percodan. They've retired those names. So I don't know if I'm going to change it or not when I redo it, but it's
I wouldn't change a thing. It's good. You got me intrigued, and then when I heard it, I was like, "This is good. This is good."
Yeah, people like that. I've played at the Bluebird before, and you know, get good responses on all the other songs. But when I played that one, you know, people like to laugh. And Ray Scott, that the artist, I don't know if you know Ray Scott. He has a real deep voice. But he came out with a record called Wrong Songs this last CD. And he, I guess, ran a survey or something, and his #1 downloaded, maybe it was off the downloads from one of the sites. His #1 song is one of his silly ones. But
he made kind of like the Ray Stevens of old. I don't know if you remember Ray Stevens.
Yeah, I do. Yes, sir.
The Streak and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So he reminded me, he said, the good thing about that, though, is if you can get somebody to listen to a funny song, they'll start digging in your catalog sometimes and find the serious good stuff. So that's a good point. So the Pharmacist is always fun to play, and people love to hear it, and I love to play it. So it's been a good song to have luckily written. I'm glad I wrote that.
If anybody comes across your stuff just like me, that's going to be one. You know, they're looking through the song list and they see the Pharmacist. It's going to they're automatically like, okay, I got to hear that. We got to see what this is about.
Right.
So, yeah.
I hope to redo that at some point and bring it up to speed sonically for sure.
Right.
Even though it's weird when you have a song you like the sound of it, and these guitar players and the musicians, you hate to bring them into the studio and say, "Can you just copy this?" You know, you don't insult their creativity.
Exactly.
But sometimes you just like, I want this, but I need it to sound clean and good and be mixed right. So that the Pharmacist song is kind of one of those. I'm cool with the sound. It just needs to be updated, and we're good to go with it. And
then there was, before we get to Find Me, another one that, go talk about. You just made a good point. They find the funny ones and listen to that. They're going to go back and find the serious ones. Stained Glass. Geez, one of the best lyrics up there. The world looks better through stained glass, and it's talking about through Church's eyes. That was a powerful song. Talk about a little bit about how Stained Glass come about.
I wrote that one a long time ago. It's probably been 15, 16 years back. It was on my first CD, and the first recording of it was more of a bluegrass kind of sound. Honestly, the effect that song has, I'm going to have to give that one to the big man, because it just resonates with people, and I don't think
they relate to it. People can relate to it, and when they can relate to a song, it's more powerful to them.
Right. And some of that stuff, you write what you write, but sometimes when it hits and strikes a chord with people, that you feel like there's a bigger hand in that, and that's the way it feels with that. But actually, the visual of that song in my head, I don't know why, but it was like a movie. The first verse was in my mind, was like a movie, and all I saw was like a black man walking to church, and I don't know why he was black, but in my mind it was an old black man walking to church that had lost his wife. And
the story behind it. The story in that is just that first verse. Get to you. It'll get to you, and I can totally see what you're talking about with that too. Yeah. And the stories in that song, guys, I promise you, if you listen to that song, the stories in that song, it'll get to you.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it very much. I've always loved that song, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it through the years. So it was neat to bring it up to speed, recording it. I changed the ending a little bit, but I have my cousins and stuff that still say, I like the original, and that stings a little bit, but But you
Well,
know,
I think there's probably on both sides. People like the more up to date, and then people like the original. I mean,
right, and it needed to be smooth out a little bit. It both versions are different, and I Keo, Big and Rich's drummer, actually played drums on that.
oh wow,
He did a really interesting feel to the drums. Like I said, I'm a little bit challenged with percussion, so I can't explain it, but he gave me a little more room to sing it.
mm-hmm.
I don't know that he slowed it down much, but it gave me more room to breathe and sing it and deliver it. And I recorded that with Kenny Royster, who he has
Yes,
to go downtown. And he actually did the tracks for Luke Combs' Hurricane and some of those songs on that first record. And I don't know if they ever gave him credit for it, but he has a really nice setup and some really good gear. And he's been doing that since I got here. He was in Nashville doing demos before I got to Nashville. And then when I got to Nashville, Kenny did some of my original demos 25 years plus ago. And he's banging them out to this day, booked up months out all the time. I like him a lot. He's got a good upbeat attitude, and it's fun to always work with him. So I enjoyed redoing Stained Glass with him. And that song, here's the funny thing about the recording. It literally, that song, the new recording of it was recorded over like 4 years. He called me today when I was at work and said, Wade, I'm doing a session. He goes, I've got a little bit extra time on this session. Do you have anything you want to record? And I was like, I'd kind of like to redo Stained Glass. I went and did the session with him. It was like, I don't know, 2018, 17. And then when I called him back to do the vocals, I'm like, Kenny, I want to come do a vocal on that song. I said, well, has it been like a year? He pulled it up on his computer. He goes, Wade, that's been 2 years ago you recorded the music. I said, you gotta be kidding.
So they say they've always heard the older you get, the faster time goes.
Man,
yeah, they were right.
Moving like a bullet train.
Definitely. So now we get to this is another song that you're releasing to country radio that's been available for a while.
Yes, sir.
But Find Me. Like I said, it's been years. I'm sure you're surprised. That was like you're talking to the man upstairs.
Right.
And then I want to find the man I'm supposed to be. Help me find the man I'm supposed to be. I mean, just a well put together song.
Thank you, Stevie. That's kind of my answer song. I wrote a song that wasn't a religious song that called Find Yourself on my first record, and it wasn't quite the answer song to it, but it's funny that I wrote one called Find Yourself and then
Find Me.
But yeah, it's just kind of a song about like many people in life, you're raised in the church, you have a strong faith, and you just kind of drift from it. And you don't intentionally do it. You get caught up in work. You get caught up in your own ambitions, and you just kind of drift. And you forget how important it is to live life according to the way God wants you to live it. And you just kind of take the reins and run with it. And at some point, you look up and you're like, I'm so off track. And that's what the song is about, And so I've been spending the last few years doing that, and when I wrote it, it was really at the forefront of my mind. That was all emotion writing that song.
I think when you talk about how easy it was for you to write the Pharmacist and stuff like, but when you got emotion into it, and I'm speaking not from experience, but you can only imagine. When you got emotion in it and it's something that's on your mind, I'm sure it comes out a little bit quicker too. It's right.
It really does. It really does. That one I wrote fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you about this guy before we go any further. Let's talk about Mr. Flint. What's it like to work with Flint? Because I know you guys got that new song coming out.
Oh yeah.
Kevin. He's so excited about that. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Can't wait to hear it. Talk a little bit about what it's like working with Flint.
Well, he is
He's watching now.
Yeah, I know. John is full of energy. Just energy, man. He's got great ideas. He's got great melodies. If I have a kind of a melody that's kind of almost there, he is just he makes it easy. He helps balance the parts of writing that are hard for me. So like I said, we haven't written that much, but most everything we've written has been spiritual. We wrote one song called "That Ain't My Jesus." That's a really cool song. And what's sad is a lot of these are on one of my old computers, and I can't get to them right now, so I don't have copies of everything. But it's just a joy. It's fun to write with John because he's upbeat, and he's actually a really good guitar player. He's always got he uses that DADGAD tuning, which is kind of a alternative tuning, which makes the chord sound more full and bigger. And he's just a good player, great singer, great everything. I tend to help him with the lyrics on stuff, and together we work good. But he's been a really good friend, and we bounce a lot of stuff off each other, and we've had the same frustrations, up and downs of the music industry, and getting depressed and trying to push things through and not being able to. It can be a really frustrating journey for people that are trying to force things to work, and you can't make them happen on your own timeline. So I think we're both at a point where we've turned it all over to God. If something happens, that's great. If it doesn't, we're going to have hands. Yeah. And then Randy of Private Label Artist is also a friend. Randy Smith, that heads up the label, all kind of on, and he's done a lot of work with putting us all together, just kind of organizing us. We're all a little ADHD and can't get our boat going in the right direction. So he's helped us focus, and hey, you got to go get the pictures, you got to do this, and get us all on track. And I really feel like COVID actually made me worse in that category. That's a different story. But anyway, Randy's been really helpful. He's trying to pick songs he believes in that's going to have a good message for the world and for the Lord. And same thing with the label. That's his whole point. And he's just hoping to do, that the message gets out there with these songs, and he's spending his money and his time to help us out and help really to try to promote good messages. And that's what we're all on board with. Where I'm just trying to have a good time with it. John, I think, is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're just enjoying it. I mean, this has been one of the most enjoyable times of my life in terms of music, by not worrying about stuff and just rolling with it and seeing where it goes. If it goes somewhere, that's great. If it just saves a life or saves somebody's heart, or that's
it'd be worth it.
A bonus. Yeah, that would be worth everything. So, and that's what it's all about. And so we can thank COVID for getting us all a bunch of back on track in some respects to our spirituality. Hopefully.
Yeah, you got to look at, and I think I talked about it last night on an interview. COVID, it was what it was, and it did a lot of bad things, but it gave people, if it did one good thing, people were at home spending time with each other, and then you got to kind of, like you said, refocus, reset your mind about what you needed to do.
Yeah.
But
they probably didn't anticipate that part.
No.
They anticipated a lot, but I'm sure people refocusing and rededicating their lives to the Lord and trying to get back on track was not one of them. But it was a beautiful sidebar to the whole episode.
Yep. So, and look, I can't wait to hear as much as as it's been talked about, Fight Like Heaven. Can't wait to hear how that turns out. That's I've been hearing about it for now, and I'm like, God, I got to hear this thing. This might be right up there with The Pharmacist.
Well, it's going to sound good with John singing on it. It will sound good. Actually, he's already done the vocal on the demo. We have to beef up the tracks a little bit. We got to get some more stuff done to it. So hopefully we'll have that demo ready in another month or so. It's kind of hard to get to some of the studios and things.
Right.
We're working on it. I'm excited. Another good. I think it's going to be another song where you write it and you look back and you just feel blessed because it seems to be resonating. One of those things you can't plan. So if that's the case, man, I thank the Lord again for that one.
Right. And the title just, I mean, Fight Like Heaven. I mean, instead of Fight Like Hell, Fight Like Heaven. That's
right.
A great title. So I do this. I've been doing this for the last few artists I've had on here. What I do now is I give you some quick hitting questions. It's
okay.
different stuff. So get your thinking cap on. Like I told Mark last night, get your thinking cap on. And
all right.
I've been surprised here lately because it started with Noelle. Noelle, she belted out like one of the questions I thought people would have to think about a lot. She belted out just like that. So we'll see how you do. We'll see how you do. It's just a few of them. So
okay.
Right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Favorite album?
Rock and roll, Van Halen. Van Halen 1. Country, it'd probably be Rope in the Wind, Garth Brooks.
Gotcha. Favorite artist or group?
I'm gonna have to go with Van Halen.
Gotcha. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke, although I'm starting to drink Mountain Dews, which is a Pepsi product. Ooh. As a side note, though, both of those were invented by pharmacists.
That'll be on the pharmacist too on the next song.
That's right. So we can thank pharmacists for rotting our teeth out. And
you know what? I have not had a Mountain Dew in like 7 years.
They're terrible.
If I drank one right now, I'd probably be bouncing off the walls.
Well, the only good thing in them is they don't have phosphoric acid in them, and Cokes do.
Right.
So I think they're a little less acid, but you're pouring into a stomach full of hydrochloric acid, so I'm not sure what it matters.
Well, we just killed Pepsi sales of Mountain Dew for the next month.
Sorry, Pepsi.
Or no, Coke.
Sorry, Coke. I love Coke, so I drink them.
Yeah. Is that true about the Coke? Can if you put a penny in a Coke, it'll.
I've never tried it, but I would think it would have to erode it some. I don't know about that though.
First gig you played.
First gig. Oh, that's a tricker. Probably. Probably Battle of the Bands at South Gwinnett High School with my rock band.
No video exists of that. We don't see that on YouTube, do you?
I left it in the garage during one of my moves, and it mildewed.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's forgotten history now.
First album or CD you bought?
You know what? I don't ever remember having any money, but I know that the AC/DC records and stuff didn't get bought by my parents or my sister, so probably AC/DC Back in Black or that Waylon Jennings record.
I got you. Favorite sport?
Traditional would be baseball. Non-traditional would be motocross.
Motocross. Okay.
I like that.
First concert you went to?
Van Halen at the Omni.
You're definitely a Van Halen guy. We got to have you back on for a Van Halen show. Favorite TV show?
Currently, Ted Lasso. Old school would be like The Fall Guy.
Oh, The Fall Guy. I love that theme song.
I did too. I don't watch much. I watch very little TV anymore.
I've got to check out Ted Lasso. I've heard people say a lot of
it's good. It's a good show. I would recommend it.
Favorite meal?
Steak.
That's my man. Favorite song? Got to be a Van Halen song, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably like Dreams.
Yeah.
Okay. That's with Sammy Hagar, but country. I really that's really a hard question.
That is. It could change by the week for me.
It does for me too. Yeah. Lately, I've been revisiting "Love Will Keep Us Alive" by the Eagles.
Eagles, yeah, that was on the Hell Freezes Over album. Yeah.
Yeah, John actually had posted one of the writers singing it today. I never knew who wrote it or co-wrote it, and he. Anyway, that changes for me every.
Yeah, it does for me too. Timothy B. Smith sang that song. That was a great.
Oh,
He's got
awesome.
a great voice. All right, now I can't believe I hadn't thought about asking you this before. Now, since you're such a big Van Halen, are you Van Roth or Van Hagar?
I like them both and respect what each one.
Different. It's different sounds. They bring something different to the table.
Yeah, I was a Sammy Hagar fan about the same time as I was a Van Halen with David Roth fan too. The 3 Lock Box record.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Probably because he was a guitar player.
And a lot of people don't realize that too. When they just see when of course he hit it. I guess big. He got his name out there when I Can't Drive 55, but
right.
When he went to Van Halen, nobody really knew how great of a guitar player he actually was. But when he was on his own,
right? Yeah. He was a great player, and that's part of the reason I liked him.
All right, pineapple on pizza.
Every day, twice on Sunday.
Really?
I do like pineapple on pizza.
Wow, you're one of the few. All right, favorite movie?
Probably Shawshank Redemption is one of them.
Okay. All right. If you could collaborate with anyone, living or passed away, who would it be?
I'd want to sit down and write one with Alan Jackson.
Gotcha.
I sure would. I'd like to just meet him for one.
Yeah.
I actually met him, but I've never
sat down and really
hung out with him and got to know him.
All right, last one. Guilty pleasure, and I think from what you've seen that we might have already heard, that guilty pleasure is something that's on your playlist or that you listen to that people might be shocked that you listen to.
Whoa, that's a tough one.
I'll tell you one, and this started when I was a teenager, and with all the Kiss stuff and listen to the rock stuff and all that. I was a big Debbie Gibson fan.
Okay.
She was nice to look at, and she got a good voice.
She had some good tunes. I think maybe people would be shocked that I like Prince's music a lot, especially and I love that.
Purple Rain was like a perfect album.
Yeah, I love some of his stuff. Some of it's a little too computerized, but I appreciate the writing and the guitar work on it, and he produced all that stuff too.
Yeah. Prince was another one that a lot of people don't. There's some of the diehard fans talk about, but you don't realize how great a guitar player that Prince was.
Yeah, he
could play.
He wrote "Just Another Manic Monday" for the Bengals.
For the Bengals, yeah, did
for the Bengals.
He wrote that "Nothing Compares to You," Sinead O'Connor thing. There's a lot of songs he wrote for other artists that people don't realize.
Yeah, he was a super talent, man. I hated to see him go.
Yeah, you think about him and Michael Jackson. They were kind of competing at that time for who was the bigger one, and both of them go at an early age. It's a shame to see it.
Right.
So now, before we let you go, we got to talk about where can people find you. You can find you. I know they can find you on Apple Music. What other places can we find Wade Quick at? We can keep up with Wade Quick at.
I don't know the site that the direct links or anything, but I am on I'm on Facebook and I'm easy to find with my name, Wade Quick. That's easy. Oh, yeah. And then I am on Rumble. I'm on True Social, Instagram. So I'm on quite a few of those. I don't spend a lot of time on many of those or post stuff, but I'm probably going to try to do more of that because I've seen a lot more people getting hijacked on Facebook where their profiles are completely cloned. Yeah. So we all we should already been at it, but maybe it'd be bad to build your complete following there and then have it upended with a cloned account.
It happened to actually my wife had a page that she was doing stuff on, and that one got totally hijacked by some foreign gaming people that were playing video games and putting it up there, and she could never get it back.
That's not cool.
Yeah, but and I've seen some people get theirs cloned where it looks like it's them making another Facebook page, but it's not. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but
you would think some technology company could do better, you know?
Because there's always look, the people that are probably doing the cloning work for them technology companies, and they're one step ahead of them. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Mr. Quick, I want to thank you so much for we've been on here an hour talking, and it feels like I have been on here 20 minutes. So
I appreciate it. I enjoy you, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for your time.
Anytime you want to come back on, like I said, we'll bring you back on and talk Van Halen, because it sounds like you know a lot of Van Halen, and I love to talk music.
Okay.
So we'll get you back on here, and anytime you got something new you want to talk about, we'll get you back on. Maybe we can get you and Mr. Flint on together one night. That'll be something. Talk about Field. We'll talk about Fight Like Heaven.
That'd be great. We love that. We're really excited about it. So yes, sounds good. And thank you for your time, Stevie.
Guys, you make sure you check him out. Apple, Spotify, wherever you stream your music at. And like you said, all the social media, check him out. That's Mr. Wade Quick. Guys, thank you. Like I said, thank you so much, Mr. Quick. I think he froze up on me. You there? There he goes. It froze up on me for a minute.
Uh-oh.
Like I said, thank you so much, Mr. Quick, and we'll see you again real soon, I hope.
Sounds good, my brother. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, y'all guys have a great night, and that's On the Fly.